Shut up and sit down.
You're listening to the Cheaters Never Pin podcast, a proud part of the Section 328 family. Follow us on Twitter at CheatersInVRPin. Now, live from ringside, it's Mr. Workrate and JC. Well, hello again, everybody. And welcome back to another episode of the Cheaters Never Pin podcast. We're glad to have you on board today. Aren't you, Tom?
Absolutely. I didn't hear the intro, but I'm sure it'll come out in post.
Oh, it's there. How about now? Can you hear it now?
Oh, hey!
Hey, there it is. We're using some new stuff, so it's we're figuring it out. So hopefully the show turns out okay.
I thought I went deaf mute there for a moment, so...
No, I didn't realize I didn't have the aux input sent to your mix. But that means it didn't know, so it wouldn't have recorded at all. So you know what? Now everybody's just hearing this. And they're like, what the fuck are they talking about? Well, it's because I added it.
Whee!
Woo! Technology. Anyway, this is the Cheaters Never Pin podcast. I'm JC.
Assuming we're recording right now, I'm Tom.
Yes, and we're here to talk about wrestling. And we've got a little bit to talk about tonight.
Yeah, we've actually got some content this week.
Yeah, we got No Mercy to talk about from this past Sunday.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk a little bit. We kind of touched upon it last week, but we'll talk a little bit about the recent passing of Bobby the Brain Heenan.
And we get a match exchange. So we can try to keep this short and sweet for your commute in the morning or evening or afternoon. Maybe you work third shift. I don't know.
We're not here to judge.
No. If so, make that third shift money. You do you.
Yeah. It's a lot better commute than what I'm doing, so.
All right. But as always, thank you for listening. Rate, review, and subscribe wherever you downloaded us on any of the 19 million platforms where finer podcasts are purveyed.
And hopefully it'll also be on the website like last week's was not, but.
Yes. Last week was weird. We recorded on a Friday, and it was super late, and I just didn't feel like it.
It may not have happened. I'm not sure. It may have been a fever dream.
It did. And thank you for those of you that stuck with it and still downloaded it. I know there were some of you, and I appreciate your patronage.
Yes.
And speaking of patronage, go to cheatersneverpin.com and click the Patreon button on the front page if you want to support this podcast and our website by tossing a few ducats in the coffer every month as a thank you.
Yeah, it allows us to not only dangle that carrot in front of us to make us, want to actually do these things each week, but which we enjoy doing anyway. So, spoiler alert, your money doesn't necessarily encourage us to do these podcasts because we probably do them anyway for free. But it helps us to buy this, new technology that JC will figure out so that we can figure out how to do the sound on both ends of this podcast and use microphones so maybe we can be in the same room one day and, all kinds of neat stuff.
Absolutely. CheatersNeverPin.com and click the Patreon button.
Do it.
So do you want to start off with Heenan then? I feel like, because I don't have that much of a background with him being the age I am.
Shut up.
Like, I remember watching him on Nitro. I remember him from Nitro. That's where I first knew Bobby Heenan from.
All right, so I guess I'll take the handoff here and just explore. Bobby Heenan, I first got into wrestling, and we'll do the age checks here, around, I guess, the end of 85, beginning of 86, around that time, kind of after WrestleMania 1, but before WrestleMania 2. And Bobby Heenan was one of a collection of managers that participated in WWF at the time. It was Heenan, Mr. Fuji, Freddie Blassie, Johnny Valiant, Captain Lou Albano for the faces, so there actually was one good guy out of the group, but there was a large amount of managers over on the heel side of WWF. And as it turns out, most of these guys, at least in the case of everyone pretty much other than Heenan, had been previous WWF employees in some way, whether they be wrestlers. Like Fuji wrestled, he was a former tag champion. Blassie had the huge history wrestling in the California and the West Coast before eventually coming over and being a manager. Johnny Valiant, the Valiants go back very far with Vince McMahon Sr., so just one of those things where these guys always going to have a job as long as Vince is around, that type of thing. Heenan had made his name more recently in the AWA with Vern Gagne as the manager of Nick Bockwinkel, along with other people, but Bockwinkel was the main person he was put with. And he would wrestle, and he would also manage. But when Hulk Hogan came over, and I learned about this just recently from Tony Schiavone's podcast, but when Hulk Hogan had come to the WWF from the AWA, Heenan was one of the people that he pushed to bring over from the AWA. So Heenan comes over, and Heenan wasn't like the stereotypical other managers that were out there. Guys like Fuji, they were the devious stereotypes. Freddie Blassie was just kind of a gravelly-faced old guy who yelled and insulted people, and Johnny Valiant was desperately trying to be the cool guy. But Heenan just had this ability to insult people just so flawlessly without having to yell, without having to be overwhelming or anything like that. He would just break it down and just insult anybody who bothered to come to a wrestling event. And he just had this way of speaking that just was so grating against you. And part of it you couldn't necessarily explain, but I mean, it just, even in like, it would work more so even nowadays because he just had this way of speaking. I think probably the closest person I can think of now to be able to get under a fan's skin would be like Kevin Owens now, I guess. It's kind of the comparison that I can make. But Heenan not only was able to cut these promos, but he also, at least for a decent amount of time before injury slowed him down, he would still wrestle every once in a while. And even when he was a manager, he would take these hellacious bumps over the top rope, go flying outside of the ring. I mean, like Shawn Michaels, like reckless, comeuppance when the face would finally get their hands on him and like just lay out one punch. He'd go flying as if like Shawn Michaels hit Hulk Hogan. It was, and it would get the crowd so into it. But, yeah, he would later go on. I mean, he did the commentary for the longest time with WWF, would dress up in drag every once in a while. He had this connection with Gorilla Monsoon, just the two of them back and forth, and they knew each other for a while and worked with each other for a long time. And they just had this chemistry on Primetime Wrestling and on one of the syndicated shows. I want to say it's Wrestling Challenge, one of those, where just the two of them worked so well together. And then eventually worked his way over to WCW, where he then did commentary for a good amount of years afterwards. And as he got older, he just flashes of him were still there, and people always talk about his quick wit, and he was like a stand-up comedian, and people said that he could be a stand-up comedian just with his quick wit and always on top of something. Somebody said something, he could throw it right back at you. But in WCW, you could sense a little bit of a decline, and I'm not sure if it was because he was just kind of getting tired of the whole process, or whether it was just WCW backstage being annoying, which again Shivani has talked about in the past, and just the way that WCW was run at the time, promises that were made, that type of thing. But I think the way to truly appreciate Heenan is to hit the network, not necessarily the collection that they put together of him, because it's just kind of a randomly thrown together collection of random Bobby Heenan stuff. But check out the Primetime Wrestling shows, see his interactions with Gorilla Monsoon, which were great. Look at some of the pay-per-view events that he participated in, like the early ones, like WrestleMania 2, WrestleMania 3. Watch some of the build-up that he does when they did the Andre turn on Hogan, and just watch how he builds together that, and builds a case for Andre, where Andre's clearly turning heel. And Bobby Heenan's this hated person, but Bobby's throwing out like the common sense and putting the finger of blame on Hogan. Now Hogan is this great big babyface, obviously, but he just throws the finger of blame at him, and he's almost like kind of like the lawyer that like you hate him telling you the truth, but you kind of realize it at the same time you want, because it's him saying it, you hate it. And he just did that so skillfully. And managers now, any like heel wrestling persona nowadays can study tapes of him, and it's truly a loss.
Yeah. Like I said, my introduction to him started with Nitro towards the tail end of the Monday Night Wars. Which, you kind of touched on this. He was fine. He was still Bobby, but it wasn't the Bobby like if you go back to the network and watch Primetime Wrestling that you would see, which I've done, and that's awesome. And there's a lot. I think Corey Graves has a little bit of him in him, and Corey Graves has the potential to. There will never be another Bobby Heenan, but to be, a different version of that, I think that's there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's it's a huge personality in a sport, in an entertainment industry that is filled with them, and it's a huge loss.
Yeah. The Royal Rumble, I want to say it's 90, the one that Flair wins.
90 or 91.
Yeah, whichever of those. Watch that. You don't have to watch the rest of it. Just watch the actual Rumble match, and just because he's got the investment in Flair, and there's the joke because he keeps using the fair to Flair thing throughout the entire thing, which is funny in itself, but it's kind of beaten to death. But just the way that he called that match is just it's typical Bobby Heenan, and it's typical of the person that people got to know in that era.
Yeah, for sure. Well, on a I don't know if it's a brighter note or not. We'll determine that as we go through it. We'll talk about No Mercy, the Raw pay-per-view from this past Sunday.
Well, no one died, so there's that.
True, we did have one gruesome injury, but no deaths. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
So you just want to start from the top of the card? Work our way through the end?
Yeah, might just as well.
Yeah. Elias versus Apollo Crews.
I missed it completely, so I'm going to assume whatever you say.
Yeah, Elias won. It was fine. Apollo's great at doing his spots. Yep, that's about it. I heard Meltzer say something interesting, which I totally agree about when it comes to Elias. He's got pretty much all of the package. Like the singing gimmicks getting over. He's got the right look. He's got the right face. Like, but when he gets in the ring, he's just nobody. And I think that is the best way to describe him right now. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and I mean, there was an era, 20 years ago where that would have been perfectly fine.
Oh, yeah.
And nowadays, it's not so much. But I mean, he'll still be able to coast on it at this point. But yeah, in order to be able to hit that next level, at least be able to, and it may be, I don't know, and it may be who he's in the ring with and whether or not he's given enough time.
Well, Monday night after he beat Apollo again, he got beaten down by Titus. So,
Rah, rah.
Rah, rah. So that ought to be a interesting thing for TLC.
Sure. You kind of forget that Titus wrestles until that.
Yeah. He's so great in the Titus Worldwide Manager gimmick, though. It's perfect for him.
Who saw that coming, really?
No, it's great. The Miz defeats Jason Jordan with distraction help from the rest of the Miztourage to retain the Intercontinental Championship in 10 minutes, 15 seconds. The Miz in LA, of course, cheered heavily by his hometown crowd that's not his hometown anymore because he actually lives in Vegas now because they sold their house in LA, but nobody seems to know that. And Jason Jordan, no one gives a shit about him, so, that's the thing.
No. Yeah. For him to initially be a payoff of the whole Kurt Angle thing was a letdown in itself. And, it's unfortunate because I like Jason Jordan as a wrestler in general, but, yeah, guy lacks serious personality, so it's always going to be like this. And it's not even a case of a push that people get frustrated with like Roman. Roman's at least marketable. Jason Jordan isn't. Not at this point, at least.
He's a black hole of charisma, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He's the exact opposite of Elias.
Yeah. If they could somehow mush the two of them together.
That would be maybe the weirdest wrestler I've ever seen.
And that in itself is a gimmick.
Yeah. So Titus Worldwide needs to invest in cloning technologies to combine their DNA and
one of those fly type situations where the two of them end up in the transporter and come out the other side as this four-armed.
Wow, is that even legal? Could you have four arms in a wrestling ring?
Is it specifically illegal?
That's true. I don't know. I'd have to consult the book of rules.
Yeah.
But first half of the match, back half of the match, much better. Not the best match I've seen The Miz in recent memory.
No, it's,
not that he's a stellar technical wrestler by any means of the imagination, but it is flat for even him.
Yeah, you can put two halfway decent workers together too. They have to click, and it didn't seem like anything was clicking there.
Yep. But the Miz and the Miztourage obviously moving on. We'll get to their next angle after we cover the tag match, I guess.
Yeah.
Finn Balor defeats Bray Wyatt in a man-to-man match in 11 minutes and 35 seconds.
Yeah.
Poor Bray for always taking the loss, but fanboy me is happy with this.
Yeah, I figured you would be.
Finn in his shiny new, well, they weren't shiny, but his beautiful new gray trunks and kick pads.
Yeah, that's a thing. We just can't always be black gear, I guess. You know, got to shake off that Balor Club, old school Bullet Club looking thing and get more into the little diamond symbol that, I don't know, somebody drew on a napkin.
I like it though. It's a clean little symbol. That's what I like about it. And it is unique. It's unique to any other kind of look of a symbol in wrestling right now.
Yeah, it looks like somebody made it in the 1983 video game.
Mario Paint. They made it.
No,
which isn't 83, but
what is it? Tempest? Tempest, I think, is what I'm thinking of.
Okay, yeah. I got you.
Welcome to more, ancient references from old ass Tom.
Welcome to the Tom is Old podcast.
Yeah.
It was a fine match. I think it's the best match Bray Wyatt's had on pay-per-view in an immeasurable amount of time. Finn was fine. I mean, it wasn't either one of them's it wasn't the most stellar match, but it's a Bray Wyatt match, so what am I going to expect? But it was fine.
Yeah. It's what it's going to be.
And Finn had to get that rub to start that Goldust feud, baby.
Yeah, sure.
I'm pretty sure that was a one-off, and we're going back to this, though, since the music interrupted him Monday night.
Yeah.
Or not the music, but I guess you could call it music, the whole world song. So, yeah, this is still going. I don't know why. I don't know why they feel the need to just beat Bray Wyatt senseless all the time, but.
And this is the issue with a continuing feud. If you want to have a long feud, like you had in the past, that's fine. But when you have a pay-per-view seemingly every 3 weeks plus TV, and basically having matches or tag matches or whatever in with each other, it gets to be boring because you're trying to build out this long feud over several months, and it feels like you're getting beaten over the head with it because you have it every 3 weeks on a pay-per-view, and it gets mentioned every week on, the TV show, which is 3 hours long, instead of how it originally was. You'd have a pay-per-view, let's say, every 3 months, and if you had a feud, it wouldn't necessarily get addressed on the TV show 1 week because it was only an hour long, so you can only have so many actual things take place during that hour. So
my thing is
an interview. I don't know.
Yeah, but my thing is here too. So you have Finn beat him clean twice, which once again, I am fine with this as a Finn Balor fan. But in this case, if you want to extend this to TLC, why don't you do some kind of DQ screwy finish and have Wyatt go over here to justify having that last match? Right? I mean, it's just if I'm Finn and he's I'm going to fight you again, I'm going to be no, I've beaten you twice. Go away. Right?
Yeah, I understand fighting. Well, you're not even a fighting champion at this point. Yeah, I understand not backing down from challenges or whatever, but at this point, it's it's not even the sore loser thing. It's why do they keep booking? Why do the promoters keep booking the match?
Yeah, if you're Kurt Angle, you're why am I going to put you two back together? I know exactly what's about to happen. I've seen it.
Some voodoo thing happens, and we find out that Bray goes to Kurt Angle and
mind controls him.
Gives Kurt Angle a hat, and the hat makes Kurt Angle do whatever Bray Wyatt tells him to do. I don't know. Maybe I've been watching too much Papa Shango.
Kurt, you've been looking real bald, man. I want you to wear this hat. It's gonna look good. It's gonna show you the light, man. Put it on.
And of course, since Kurt Angle is stupid, he would do it.
Right. Man. All right. There we go. Got the Ray impression in.
Yeah,
Check.
there we go. Drink.
So match of the night right here. I think we can both agree. The Shield retains against the Bar, the tag team titles.
If you're a dentistry fan.
Most notably, early in the match, Seth catapults Cesaro to where he's going to take the Sergeant Slaughter bump off the top of the ring post. Oh yeah, but he goes in mouth first and knocks his 2 front teeth into his jaw.
Yeah, it's important to stress this because at first when people saw it and, you kind of like, oh, it broke his teeth.
Nah, bruh.
No.
No, he jammed him up in
No,
there.
no. They actually reversed the aging process and pushed his teeth literally back into his mouth.
Is this where I yell Seth Rollins is an unsafe worker and got somebody hurt again? Is that appropriate here?
No, it's not. Because
okay, good. Because
I don't understand how you take that bump wrong.
Yeah, I mean it's totally on Cesaro. I guess he just I don't know. He went in mouth first, which I don't understand. I mean I'm not a trained worker, so anything can go wrong in there. But
I've been watching wrestling for a while now, and I've seen that slingshot into the ring post spot about 8 bazillion times.
Yeah.
And I get that it doesn't cause blood anymore. And I could even get, okay, we want to do a little something that shows damage. So, not saying blood capsule or anything, but they've done the mouth bleeding thing once or twice. But
Roman does it every week.
not for nothing, but try not dropping your face directly on the post.
Yeah. And to hit, to where both teeth get knocked, it's impressive that he was able to do that.
Did he slip or something? I don't know how you do that, but yeah.
Good match. Otherwise, he continued to work, finished the match. These 4 guys, really click together.
Yeah.
And I hope we get one more of these at TLC. But
and
apparently there are other plans in the works.
And see, that's why, you can have, and we have had, the Ambrose, Rollins, Cesaro, Sheamus matches a couple of times now. And it's been okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because these guys actually work well together. Whereas, I mean, not saying that Bray Wyatt and Finn Balor don't work well together, but it's not optimal necessarily.
Yeah.
So you can watch a match again and again if it's enjoyable each time. If it's just kind of there, then it's time to move on to something else.
Yep. And I guess what we're moving on to here is the Shield reuniting fully with Roman Reigns to take on the Miztourage. As evidenced by the Miz TV segment and the beatdown from Monday night. I mean, the Shield's getting back together. And yes, it's not optimal against the Miztourage. I realize that. But they're getting back together, and I don't care.
You don't have another group of 3, and that's apparently what they need to do. And we've already done the Wyatt family, but no one knows what the hell has happened to the Wyatt family. Right. So,
well, I mean, I already told you, and they would have had to already be laying the framework for this, and they're obviously not doing this. But you put Finn with Gallows and Anderson. And I realize that's real inside baseball, and so it won't get over heavily with a lot of the casual audience, which is the majority of the audience. But I mean, if you have commentary and I'll say, hey, these guys have a past in Japan together. They're family, and you can have them cut promos about being brothers in Japan and whatnot, and it'll be fine. They just align, no big deal.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that they can't pull together footage necessarily because they're not going to get the New Japan footage. But...
No, yeah, but that would be my choice. But I mean, it's not going to happen, and that's okay. I just want Gallows and Anderson to do something interesting. That's all. Yeah,
because they can.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell they're having fun and they're really good at this kind of comedy stuff they're doing now, because it's very much them and their personality out there when they're like this. But I'd like them to actually have a meaningful storyline too, because they're both very good workers.
Well, I mean, that's the thing too, is that here's 2 people that, when they were in Japan, it was almost this kind of motley crew that was put together where you had Carl Anderson, who, worked indies in America, went over to Japan and found his niche in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So, he did his thing over there. Luke Gallows had, the one questionable gimmick and one gimmick that just didn't necessarily work all that great in WWE before eventually kind of going off, and he went to Japan and two of them kind of worked a team together and it worked out well. And in Japan you're going to be busting your ass night in and night out, and he got a contract thrown at him and to come over to America and be able to, be in America and have, I would say maybe an easier schedule. It's not all about wins and losses at this point.
No.
I mean, they did have a title reign, technically. Pretty sure, I think.
They did, technically.
But it's more so about making probably would you say similar amount of money than as they were making in Japan? It's close, I would.
I would say it's close because they were getting better merch money there. Because it's not like they really have merch in WWE right now.
They do. They've got
they got a little bit,
shirts.
But it's nothing. I mean, it's not to the level of Bullet Club.
Right. But, I've seen some people go, oh, well, aren't you, they talk about guys that end up working main event and the undercard shows and just kind of doing house shows and not on TV that much. It's like, oh, are you pissed off that, you ended up taking this job and you're basically at the bottom of the card for WWE when you were the man in Indies or whatever, and they're just no, we're living a good life right now. We're making money and
they're back stateside near their families. I'm sure that's a huge benefit to it for the performers that come back.
Carl's got that hot Asian wife, so.
This is true. That's a good point.
But anyway, do not cry for Gallows and Anderson.
No.
But it would be, yes, personally, I would enjoy seeing them with Finn or doing something that puts them a little bit higher in the card and allows me to see them each week. But
yeah,
it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Alexa Bliss retains the Raw Women's Championship over Bayley, Emma, Nia Jax, and Sasha Banks after scoring a DDT on Bayley, clean in the center of the ring, because, of course, it's Bayley. And we all thought Emma was going to take the pin. How stupid are we?
Yeah. Well.
Forgot Bayley's back. She could eat the pin. Who came out to booze yet again? Oh, man, she is not. That month away did not help at all.
I liked this match.
It was very good.
It did all the little things. On paper, it's nothing actually, nothing technically happened because Alexa Bliss came in with the title and she left with the title. But nobody got necessarily elevated or whatever, but Nia looked good.
She looked like a damn champ, like a beast in there. She was looking good. She had a great match.
The seeds were once again planted with Bayley and Sasha.
Yeah, more of that Monday night as well.
Yeah, the kind of three-way thing with were they trying to pin Alexa? I can't remember, but it was just where Bayley hits the Bayley to belly and makes the cover, and Sasha breaks it up, and Sasha puts on the bank statement, and Bayley breaks it up. It's basically they both could have had the title, but neither of them ended up getting the title because of the other one.
Right.
And that's one of those things where it'll come back and get referenced and all that. So.
Yep.
But yeah, Emma didn't look horrible either. So,
no, not at all. She was fun.
So yeah, for a generic throw the women's division together in a pile and just make a match out of it. It was a good match.
Yep, for sure. Then we get to main event number 1. And really what should have been the main event of the show. Roman Reigns defeats John Cena in 22 minutes and 5 seconds. Longest match of the night. Match starts real slow. Roman using that damn chin lock. Just to rile up the crowd more. Back half of this match, though, fantastic.
I saw it piss off a few people online because of the amount of finishers that got kicked out of.
It's WWE. What do you expect?
Here's my thing about the finishers, and the finisher thing will come up a little bit later on. Spoiler. You have two guys basically in Reigns and Cena that, not for nothing, have shitty finishers.
Agreed.
The AA is a fucking fireman's carry takeover.
Yeah.
It's a transition move. It's not a finisher.
True.
Now, mind you, I thought we were seeing a pinfall when he hit it off, the second rope or whatever?
Yeah, when he hit the one Super A.
Yeah. See, that's a finisher. But, and then to not kick that, and just the reaction shot of Cena when Reigns did kick out of it was good TV.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Reigns' finishing set is Superman punch, which is a punch. And I don't know if you've ever run and punched something. It really doesn't cause that great of an effect differently than if you just kind of punch something.
True.
And a spear, which, I mean, is fine, but I don't know. It's hard for me to sell a spear as a finisher. Edge did a great one, which I get. And, I mean, Roman's is actually pretty well done one.
He lays his
it's
in.
Actually, depending, and I guess the thing with the spear too is it depends on who you're working with, because a spear is only really effective if it's sold like death,
right?
Which is something that Cena does pretty well. But yeah, I mean, to have, I guess there was a little bit, you could say, a Japanese influence in it, because in Japan, if you watch a New Japan match or something like that, finishers don't end matches necessarily. It might, especially in a big match with two big hosses going Cena and Reigns. So sometimes you got to hit the finisher more than once in order to be able to get the finish that you want. And, I mean, I was fine with that. I saw some people had issues with, you don't have a big match. You just have a big match isn't, built. It's just everybody kicks out of everybody's finisher. Well,
yeah.
I've heard that complaint before, but
and my thing
whatever.
is, neither one of their finishers are even really protected at this point. They've been kicked out of before. It's nothing new. And you got to look at it in theory, these are the two top baby faces in the company. Of course they're going to kick out of each other's finishers. They're supposed to be the strongest, best guys in the company. From a storytelling point of view, that makes sense.
It's the fighting spirit.
Right. Which Roman's is embodied in the corner while having a seizure and then yelling, "Ooh-ah." I don't want to spend more than 45 seconds on this. Enzo Amore is the new Cruiserweight champion. Because fuck that division. Let's just kill it off now.
It has me mildly interested in it because
they paid it off.
I want to see what the fuck they're going to do with it.
Well, Enzo gets, I don't even know, one move of offense in. He has a nice DDT during this match. Then low blows Neville to win. Monday night, he comes out to have his celebration, and the entire cruiserweight roster comes out. Neville confronts him. Enzo's got a piece of paper that says, well, if you touch me, you don't get a shot at this title again. Neville's like, I don't really give a shit, and beats him up anyway. The show goes off the air, and then apparently, did you hear what happened in the dark segment after Raw?
Was this the Braun thing?
Yep, Braun comes out, also murders Enzo, and then the rest of the cruiserweight roster comes down, and everyone individually hits their finisher on him.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was during it or not, because I ended up watching that segment on YouTube the following day.
They released it, so it's
canon,
but oh Jesus.
I think my favorite part of that is oh God, I can't. It was Mustafa Ali, I guess. Gets ready to go up to the top rope to do some 450 or something like that. Yeah, you can tell how well I follow the cruiserweight division.
Yeah,
but he gets ready to go up to the top rope, and Drew Gulak starts arguing with him no, and then finally Drew just kind of shrugs and goes, "Okay, you talked me into it," and allows him the high spot.
Right. Well, because that's Gulak's whole gimmick is the no-fly zone.
Yeah. But if apparently everyone can agree on one thing, it's that Enzo's horrible for the cruiserweight division.
We'll see where it goes. I mean, we've turned him heel now, so at least that gives his chicken shit fluke wins some credibility as a heel. But how long can you sustain that with him, though?
What is weird about it is it's almost like there's a babyface push for Neville, which would be very much the wrong direction to go with him.
Yeah,
but I guess
you gotta think too.
Him being that
he attacked Enzo, so in theory he no longer can claim a right to the cruiserweight title at any point in time. So is he being brought back up to the main roster? Well, he's on the main roster, but to the heavyweights, and that's why they're face turning him.
I think it's more of an excuse to keep him, the condition of the match. I think, or to have. Let me try that again. Him not being able to get a title match, I think, is just an excuse to be able to have other people have the championship at least for a little bit of time.
Yeah. Because
I don't think anybody at this point, they had built up Neville so strongly that it wasn't believable to not have Neville as champion.
True.
So the only way that Neville obviously doesn't take this belt right back from Enzo is some stipulation, which is what ended up happening.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Enzo's cruiserweight champion.
Hashtag for now.
For now. Then our main event of the evening. Brock Lesnar retains the Universal Championship, defeating Braun Strowman in 9 minutes even in the most underwhelming match of the night, I would say. Just from a point of, boy, we were hyped for it, and then it went nowhere.
Are we done with Brock yet?
No. He's holding that belt till Mania, or at least the Rumble at this point, right?
No, I mean, I'm done with him.
I mean, I don't disagree with that, but he draws. He draws ratings. They need him.
But the thing is, and I think it's kind of getting on Lesnar too, is that Brock doesn't need WWE.
No.
And it's showing in his ring work, and it's showing in pretty much everything. It's that match with, I mean, it did Strowman no favors necessarily, but I mean, it was.
Well, this is the worst match. He had that bad match. The last bad match I can remember Brock having was WrestleMania Dallas against Ambrose. Everything else has been good so far. The Fatal 4-Way last month, or I'm sorry, Survivor Series SummerSlam was awesome.
Which was him selling and then coming back, doing suplexes and hitting one F5, because all you need is one F5.
Right. And that's cool. I'm good with that.
Please ignore what we said 3 minutes earlier about the 27 kick-out finishers that Reigns and Cena had.
Again, theirs haven't been as protected as the F5. The S5 is still super protected.
Obviously.
But it's because he's the most legit person they have. I mean, I also want them to get that strap off of Brock. I'm just tired of it.
I mean, I don't mind him.
It's a crutch for them, but
I don't mind him being a drawing card, but have him separate from a title, because right now on Raw you don't have a major title. You have the Intercontinental Championship with The Miz, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got all these high card types. You have Samoa Joe, and you have Strowman, and you have other people. I don't know. But you have all these higher card types that are just kind of there because they have nothing to compete against, because they don't have somebody to aim for. They don't, because Lesnar's not there week in and week out.
Yep.
So there's nothing to there's no carrot to dangle for them.
Right.
So that's why you ended up having the Shield having to reform with Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins working tag matches, because these were two former WWE champions that we can't put into a championship match because, well, the champion isn't around.
Right. Yep. No clear contender for Brock coming out of Monday night. But both Roman and Finn said their ultimate goal was to get back to that title. So they're lining at least one of them, if not both of them, up very shortly.
And at this point, that's all I can see is if he's going to drop that title, it's going to be in some kind of 3-way, 4-way, where he doesn't actually end up eating the pin.
Yep. I'm fine with that. That's the right way to do it. All right. Well, that's... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
Do you have any more thoughts about No Mercy?
No, I think that kind of wraps it up. Otherwise, I'm just going to start rambling more. So.
I got something you can ramble about.
Okay.
Match. Oh, that didn't happen at all.
Ah! Dude, that costs like $35. Don't waste those.
I'm sorry. It played. You heard it. It's there. It's time for the match exchange. Woo! You gonna do yours first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
My match was... did I put my notes on the right thing? God, I hope I did. I didn't use... There it is. Okay. My match was an IWA World Title match. IWA Mid-South, I should specify, because there's several of them.
Right.
This is Ian Rotten's promotion. From 2004, I believe. AJ Styles defends his world title against CM Punk.
Yeah.
First off, I just love the old school CM Punk wrestling in basketball shorts and the kick pads.
Right.
And at least some kind of Pepsi paraphernalia. It's almost easy to forget when you just remember his WWE tenure how much CM Punk loves Pepsi. It's also easy to forget now that we see how the style of AJ Styles now with his soccer mom hair and the goatee, the beard, and
Right.
just that kind of style that for the longest time AJ Styles just kind of looked like Randy Orton with like
True.
the little short tights and the short hair, and yeah, it's what it was. The announcers for this thing were, I'm assuming Dave Prazak, who I almost had the opportunity to meet one time before. This would have been like late 90s or something, and because friend of a friend, that type of thing, and never ended up happening. God knows what would have happened if it did. But God, he's grading on interviews, but he got better. When he first started, it was just kind of annoying to me, but he got better as time went on, and that was fine. I don't know who the hell the other guy was, but it was fascinating listening to him because he sounded like Tony Vito from Around the Block. But it reminded me of Taz, the way that Taz would do commentary and just sound like, hey, look at the two guys over there. And then would just drop some scientific knowledge like, oh, that's the Anaconda Vice, normally used by Hiroshi Tenzan. Like, what? Okay. So the two have a hell of a match. Really enjoyed it. Again, I can't undersell the amount that CM Punk loves Pepsi. Like half his moves are named Pepsi something or other,
Right.
including the kind of twisting short arm clothesline type thing that he does, which is the Pepsi Twist, which reminded me that there was a product called Pepsi Twist, which was the lemon Pepsi, which I actually liked, but anyway.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
That's a sidebar. So anyway, the two of them go back and forth, and Punk ends up winning the title, causing AJ to tap out to the Anaconda Vice. And the best part is at the very end where, he's got his belt, and the belt looks like shit, but that's besides the point. I'm a belt snob. He's outside the ring. AJ's already gone. And they're in, the high school gymnasium in front of, the 100 people or whatever it is. And Punk's holding the title, and I guess somebody's talking shit to him. And he just turns around and he goes, "You may think I suck, but in 8 more years, you're still going to be paying to see me." And I go, 2004, 8 more years, 2012, WWE champion. Yep, he probably was.
Yep. He nailed the timeline.
Yeah, CM Punk the Prophet right there.
Right.
So, enjoyed that greatly. I'll give it 4.5.
Nice. Well, I watched for WrestleMania 4 in honor of Bobby Heenan. You gave me this last week. The Islanders with Bobby Heenan in a 6-man tag match take on the British Bulldogs and Coco Beware. The match itself isn't much to write home about. I mean, it's fine. It's it's the Samoans and Davey Boy and Dynamite Kid. There's some good work in there, and Coco Beware's here too.
Best match featuring a dog and a bird on that card.
This is true. But seeing Bobby Heenan get his WrestleMania moment after the Islanders kind of threw him on top of Coco Beware to get the pin is amazing, especially with his not knowing that happened. And be like, oh yeah, all right, I just won, cool. And then getting the heck up out of there. Standard kind of 6-man shenanigan tag. Nothing too special about it. I mean, if you want to watch Bobby Heenan in a ring, cool, go for it. You can watch it here. But it's It's 2.5 stars. I mean, it is whatever.
Yeah. And I think this was one of Bobby's last matches that he actually had.
Yeah, that seems about right. What do you got for me this week?
This week, in tribute, I guess, to the upcoming quote-unquote Starcade card in Greensboro. Is that how I properly say it? Greensboro?
It's Greensboro.
Okay.
I've never said Greensboro. That's how you people say it when you're trying to make fun of us.
I'm not trying to make fun of. I've lived down here for, 11 years now. I understand that, I can read the name of a location and it's like, no, it's pronounced completely wrong. Like, Kerr is car, not Kerr. Even though it looks like it should be Kerr, it's car.
In reference to what? Now I'm confused. How is that car?
Car Lake.
Oh, yeah.
Car Drug.
Yeah, you're right. I've always called it Kerr. I didn't know it was called car.
Wow. And I thought you were from here.
I was taught by nuns from Philly. So.
Okay, well. Anyway. So from the Starcade 1986, which I'm actually watching in the background as we're taping this. Not this particular match, though. It's funny, it's listed in Wikipedia as the Anderson brothers. They are not. They are the Andersons because it's Ole and Arn. Mm-hmm. Arn is technically Ole's kayfabe nephew.
Right. Not
his brother, because Gene is his brother, and Ole was like 20 years younger than Arn, so that are challenging for the NWA World Tag Team Championships held by the Rock and Roll Express of Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson in a steel cage.
Nice.
So this was the main event of the Greensboro Coliseum portion of Starcade, as there were Starcade was held in 2 locations that year, and they kind of went back and forth between they had closed circuit and the actual live cards. So they would have one match at one location, the other match would watch on closed circuit, and then they'd flip it back and forth.
Okay.
Which, from what I'm to understand, allowed the kind of time frame to go so that they could assemble steel cages and that type of thing. So
smart.
But yeah. So steel cage, Arn and Ole versus the Rock and Roll Express.
I'm down with that. That sounds good. All right. Well, I've got a match for you. It's a Japanese match.
Okay.
It's Japanese women.
Of course it is.
Shut up, Tom. You chauvinist pig.
Buy the merch.
So, I'm just going to tell you what the match is. I don't even want to say a word about it, and then we can discuss it next week. It is Act Yasukawa, there we go, if I can say her name right, versus Yoshihiko. I believe this was a Stardom Championship match at the time. But Yoshihiko, long reigning Stardom champion. Yep.
Oh, wait a second.
Nope. You save it for the show, Tom.
Okay.
I think you know what it is.
I think I just put it together now.
Yep.
I probably don't want to watch it.
Yeah, you do. Have you ever watched it before?
I don't think so. I've heard about it.
Okay. All right. I saw a clip of it today. Spending way too much time on YouTube at work. Because that's the kind of day I had.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, that's gonna be Tom's match. So we're gonna go with that. We're gonna take this in a real weird direction next week.
All right then.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we're all wrapped up. So you can tell the people where they can find you on the internet.
Where they can find me?
Where they can find you on the internet. That's what I said.
I thought you said where. Anyway.
You can tell them where they can find me. See if you can nail my thing, and I'll try to do your thing. All right, where can they find me on the internet, Tom?
Go to the Twitter machine at JCBobbitt, at JCBOBBITT, on Instagram, on Snapchat, on Google Plus, on
I don't even know the last time I logged into Google Plus.
Friendster, on all those various other platforms that Slack.
Okay. You can find Tom on the internet, on Twitter at Mr. Workrate. He's on Facebook, but he's probably not going to friend you. And it's mostly just stuff about his pictures of his kids, and that would be weird for you to be like, I'm going to come look at pictures of your kids, so he's probably not going to friend you, and he's got other stuff, but he doesn't really ever check it. Is that about right?
That's accurate. I usually spell work rate in case you don't know how.
MRWORKRATE.
Yeah. Work rate's a simple term. Mr. It's just kind of clear. You have to clarify that it's MR and not the full thing. Remind me to actually claim that other one just in case somebody decides to write out Mr. Work rate. Ooh. Steal my gimmick.
There you go. All right. Well, fun show this week.
Yeah.
We had a good one.
I can hear the music this time.
I can't. I got work to do when we get done here. So thanks for listening again. Make sure you go to cheatersneverpin.com, click that Patreon button, also the Amazon button, bring shop and do games, click that button before you do it, and it'll kick us 2 cents back our way. We appreciate that every time you do it. Next week we'll be back with a preview of Hell in a Cell. Yep, that's right. We're back on that pay-per-view cycle, baby. Tom's not excited. Tom,
sure, I'll be excited. I'm sorry. I'm dancing. You just can't see me.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're gonna pack it up and get on out of here. So, I'm JC.
I'm Tom.
And we'll catch you on the flip side.
Shut up.
How do I stop this new thing? That's the question. I guess I hit this off button. Is that a good guess?
Sure.